You were just eating 2 honey peaches in front of a Taoist temple, not expecting to be swallowed whole by a giant snake the very next second. When you woke up again, you found that your soul had traveled into the body of a 15-year-old boy. The boy's name was Chu Ning. He was an orphan. His father had been a martial artist before he died. He was the constable of Daning County. Unfortunately, the original owner's father hadn't been a constable for very long. Before he could make much money, he drank too much on a pleasure boat one time. He accidentally tripped over his own feet, fell into the river, and drowned. He left behind an only son and an old woman. The old woman was the original owner's father's great-aunt. The original owner's father was also an orphan, and it was this great-aunt who raised him. After becoming a martial artist and then a constable, he bought a house in the city. He brought his great-aunt over to live with him. Ever since the original owner's father passed away, the original owner has been weak and sickly. And although this old great-aunt took care of him, the old great-aunt was getting on in years and couldn't do much work. The family's situation grew more difficult by the day, and they could only live off the savings his father had left behind. After living on those savings for 5 years, the money was almost gone. Life began to get tight. On top of that, there was a drought, and many commoners' fields yielded no crops. The price of food skyrocketed, and the family no longer had any money to buy grain. The original owner had just fainted from hunger, which is when your soul took over his body. You get up from the wooden bed and walk to the doorway. The courtyard ground is bare. The only spot of green is where a stooped figure is squatting, pulling weeds from the ground. Perhaps hearing a noise, the figure turns around, revealing a face weathered by hardship and full of wrinkles. Her hair is graying, and her lips are chapped in several places. But right now, the old woman says happily, "Ninger, you should go back to bed and rest. Wait for your old great-aunt to finish pulling these weeds and cook them, then you can eat." "Great-aunt, I don't want to eat weeds." The old woman pauses. "All right, your great-aunt understands. Next time, I'll pull something else for my Ninger." After eating a bowl of weeds, you don't go back to bed. Instead, you sit by the door and begin to think. From the original owner's memories, you learn that the dynasty he lived in is called the Liang dynasty. And in the Liang dynasty, it's not a world where all pursuits are lowly, only scholarship is noble. It's an era where martial artists are held in the highest esteem. Martial artists can even hold official government positions. The stronger they are, the higher their official rank. It's a world that runs on martial power. Studying and reasoning aren't as important here. If you can't reason with someone, then you speak with your fists. Legend has it that the founding emperor of the Liang dynasty could make rivers flow backward with a single palm strike, rivaling the power of an immortal. In the original owner's memory, he only knows that the ranks for martial artists start with martial apprentice and martial master. The original owner didn't know any ranks beyond that. It seems the only way to get ahead is to practice martial arts. And to do that, you need martial arts manuals. But in the Great Liang dynasty, these manuals are controlled by the imperial court, certain powerful martial artists, and various sects. For an ordinary person to learn from a martial artist, the apprenticeship fee costs dozens of taels of silver. And even then, you'd have to work like a slave at the master's home for several years before you could even begin to learn. The sects are too far from Daning County. It's said that the nearest martial arts sect is hundreds of miles away in the prefectural city. For the poor, the only way out is to enroll in the government's academy. Learning martial arts at the government academy is free. Your father was a graduate of that very academy. But any warrior who comes out of the academy is strictly forbidden from passing their martial arts down to their descendants. This is because these secret manuals belong to the imperial court. Teaching them privately is a felony. Although the academy doesn't charge tuition or require a formal apprenticeship, it has some very rigid requirements. You have to be able to lift a 200-pound stone block over your head before the age of 17. It's basically the same as the difference between public and private schools. The private ones have no requirements but cost a fortune, while the public ones demand actual talent. You whisper to yourself that the original owner of this body could only lift a 40-pound stone at most. Even with 2 years, there's no way he could have increased his strength to 200 pounds. Your gaze fell upon several stone blocks in the yard, and you walked over to them. These were crafted by the original owner's father before he passed away. 5 years ago, the boy could already lift 30 pounds. As for why his strength hadn't grown much in these last 5 years, the reason was simple. He wasn't getting enough nutrition. In fact, this was the common struggle for the poor in this world. This is why it's so hard for common families to produce a warrior. What poor family could afford to let their child eat meat every single meal? Without nutrition, there is no strength. Actually, 40 pounds isn't even that weak. You walked up to the stones and grabbed the handle of the 30-pound block. With a sudden burst of power, you hoisted the stone block right up. Holy crap, that was so easy. This doesn't make sense. You didn't even have time to think. You tried the 40 and 60-pound blocks, and you lifted both of them with ease. Something's wrong. The original body didn't have this much strength. You kept swapping stones until you finally stopped at the 90-pound block. You could lift 90 pounds, but you couldn't hold it for even 5 seconds. And this is while I'm starving. If I actually had a full stomach, 100-pound stone wouldn't be impossible. Your eyes lit up. You gave a soft call, system? There was no response. Is this because of some physical change caused by my soul transmigration? While you were lost in thought, your old grandaunt walked through the door, looking dejected with an empty bamboo basket. Yesterday little Ning had wanted to eat something different, so she had gone out to search. But after searching for half the day, she couldn't find any other edible greens. She saw you crouching in front of the stone blocks. The old woman asked curiously, "Little Ning? What are you doing?" Chu Ning looked at his grandaunt. "Grandaunt, I can lift 80 pounds now." "You said this right?" As the old woman stared in shock. You hoisted the 80-pound stone block. Thud, the bamboo basket slipped from the old woman's hand. She stood frozen for a few seconds. Then, looking incredibly excited, she hurried over. "Little Ning, come inside with me." Inside the cramped room, you knelt before the memorial tablet of the original owner's father. The old woman started rambling on and on. It was mostly things like your father's protection or the ancestors showing their spirit. You caught one key point: your late, nominal, father had been a martial master. According to the Great Liang Court's policy, as long as a descendant can enroll in the academy and stay for 6 months, they can secure a position as a constable at the county office. It was similar to modern-day priority hiring for family members of employees. But thinking about your current strength, you worried the old woman might be misremembering the numbers due to her age. You reminded her, "Grandaunt, the academy requires 200 pounds of strength. I only have 100 at most. I'm nowhere near strong enough." The old woman didn't respond. Instead, she walked to a wooden chest by the bed and rummaged through it to find a piece of clothing for you to put on. You put them on as she said. You found the clothes were way too loose. His arms didn't even reach the end of the sleeves, which reminded him of being a kid. And secretly trying on adult clothes. These didn't belong to the original owner of this body. They belonged to his father. The old grandaunt rolled up the sleeves and pant legs for you. She cinched the waist a little tighter and then looked at you. She whispered softly, "Our little Ning is a grown man now." You followed her out the door. Along the way, you asked her a few times. And learned she was taking him to see head constable Huang in the county town. He was a colleague of his father back then. She wanted to ask him for a recommendation letter to the academy. The entrance standard was 200 pounds of strength and under 17 years old. You couldn't fake your age. But when it came to strength, the academy left a lot of room for flexibility. It was just like those top-tier middle schools in his past life. You needed a certain score to get in. But if you had money, you could just donate your way in. You had no money. So, your only option was to use influence. Standing before the massive Huang estate, you were a bit curious. They were both constables, so why was the gap so huge? It was like two co-workers at the same company. One is renting a room in the city to survive, while the other lives in a mansion with a massive garden and a private swimming pool. In the backyard of the Huang estate, Huang Zhongtai was fishing in the pond. As he listened to the butler's report, he fell into thought. Chu Ping's aunt had brought Chu Ping's son to visit. Who was Chu Ping? After thinking for a moment, he finally remembered. A constable from 5 years ago. But he'd drowned shortly after taking the job. He had no personal connection with this Chu Ping. Showing up at a time like this, and bringing his son along too. Huang Zhongtai rubbed the armrest of his chair, quickly guessing the purpose of the visit. Entrance exams were coming up. They wanted a recommendation letter so the boy could practice martial arts at the academy. As long as he could stay there for 6 months, he could land a job at the government office. Chu Ping's son clearly didn't have enough strength, otherwise they wouldn't be begging him for help. Using his connections for a family he wasn't even close to, it just wasn't worth it. Tell them that I'm not feeling well today and shouldn't see guests. Tell them to please head back. Huang Zhongtai made his decision. The butler turned to leave. Just then, the float on the pond's surface bobbed down. Huang Zhongtai's eyes lit up. With a flick of his right hand, a red carp was pulled from the water. A carp, of all things? A look of surprise crossed Huang Zhongtai's face. He shouted to the butler who was already leaving the backyard, "Go to the gate and see what that Chu kid is doing right now. Take note of his expression and his behavior. Report back to me immediately." The butler hurried away. In less than 3 minutes, he returned. "Master, the Chu boy is standing at the gate with perfect posture. His expression is very calm. There's no anger and no nervousness. He was only 15, even after being left out in the cold for over 15 minutes. He could still keep a calm face, without a hint of resentment for being slighted. Whether he was good at hiding his feelings or truly patient, his character far surpassed others his age." Huang Zhongtai rose from his chair and walked back toward his study. He wrote a quick note and handed it over. "Give this to them. Tell them I'm feeling under the weather and it's not convenient to see guests. I already know why they've come. They can take this note to Instructor Liu at the academy." "Yes, master, master." The butler took the note. But when he saw the words written on the paper, his pupils narrowed for a split second. Seeing the surprised look in his butler's eyes, Huang Zhongtai gave him a pointed hint. "If we aren't going to help, then we don't help. But if we do, we have to make sure the favor is felt to its full extent. Don't you worry, master. I know exactly what to say." The butler understood his master's intent. Outside the Huang manor, the old woman gripped your hand tightly. You could feel your great aunt's heart pounding with anxiety. Her heart was nowhere near as calm as she looked on the surface. He knew exactly what was going on. The bond between this head constable Huang and his father probably wasn't that deep. Otherwise, his great aunt wouldn't have waited until now to come begging at his door. Just as you were wondering if they might refuse to help, the main gates of the Huang residence slowly creaked open. A middle-aged man dressed as a butler walked out briskly. "Madam, I am so incredibly sorry. We were delighted to hear that you and young Master Chu had come to visit. The master intended to welcome you personally, but he has been feeling quite unwell lately. The doctor has strictly ordered him not to leave his bed. Open the gate." The butler expressed his welcome with great sincerity, then added, "Master already knows why you're here." When he heard the young master has the talent for martial arts, the master was deeply moved. He kept saying that a tiger doesn't sire a pup. Brother Chu's soul in the afterlife can finally rest in peace. He specifically told me to hand this to you, madam. Listening to the butler, your great aunt took the note. When she saw the words on it, she became overcome with emotion. You sighed inwardly. Truly, people with money and power, no matter the era, are always the ones with the sharpest brains. You had caught a glimpse of the handwriting on that note. Xiao Ning is the son of my dearest friend. He has the potential for martial arts. I hope you will look after him, Brother Lu. I, Zhang Tai, will be eternally grateful. Your great aunt pulled you along, bowing repeatedly in gratitude before finally leaving. Once you got back home, your great aunt insisted you lie down on the bed to rest. You really were out of strength. The tiny bit of energy from that one bowl of wild greens had been completely used up by this single trip. You watched as she bent her frail back, rummaging under the clay stove for a good while. Finally, she pulled out something small wrapped in red paper. She walked out of the house with steady steps, and you felt a lump in your throat. The old woman had only eaten half a bowl of greens. You had no idea where she found the strength to even keep walking. As you drifted off into a daze, you caught the scent of steaming rice. You opened your eyes to find a bowl of fragrant white rice sitting on the table. Meanwhile, your great aunt was by the stove, licking the scorched rice off the spatula. Where did this rice come from? In an instant, the realization hit you. She must have pawned her very last piece of jewelry. Xiao Ning, you're awake? Quick, come and eat. Hearing the movement behind her, your great aunt turned around. She put down the spatula. I saw you were sleeping so soundly. So I didn't want to wake you. I already ate my fill. Okay, you didn't call her out. You just sat down at the table. You picked up your bowl and chopsticks. The fragrant white rice was paired with nothing but a few leaves of salted, pan-fried greens. One mouthful of rice, one mouthful of greens. That night, you had a dream. You dreamt of that little acolyte you met at Sanqing Mountain. Right now, the little boy had a look of pure grievance on his face as an old Taoist priest scolded him. 2 longevity fruits. A commoner eating just one can extend their life by 10,000 years. Eating a second one won't add any more years, but the fruit's energy will stay hidden deep within the body. Their strength will grow day by day. You've actually brought harm to this person. I subdued that snake spirit myself. It's responsible for guarding the mountain gate. It only dares to consume the essence of heaven and earth. It wouldn't dare commit such a wicked act as eating a human. If this person had just wandered in by mistake, the snake spirit would have only scared them away at most. But because you gave them these 2 longevity fruits, the snake spirit has developed a murderous intent. By devouring this person, it could gain the equivalent of 10,000 years of cultivation and escape this divine realm. You're completely stunned by these words. That giant snake, it's going to eat you? It's all because you ate those 2 longevity fruits. That little Taoist boy meant well, but he's caused a total disaster. Master, your disciple knows he was wrong. This person is just a mere mortal who stumbled into this sacred land by pure coincidence. One day in this blessed land is 10 years in the mortal world. If you wanted to be kind, you should have just given him a single drink from the spirit spring to add 10 years to his life. Giving him 2 longevity fruits should have been a miraculous blessing. But this person's fate is too thin, and he lacks the fortune to enjoy it. It seems this was simply meant to be. Don't ever let this happen again. I understand, Master. To hell with your thin fate. You suddenly snap awake. Your eyes flicker with anger. You'll save your curses for that old Taoist for later. If the things in that dream were actually true, then after this soul transmigration, does this body still have the effects of those longevity fruits? Logically, a soul crossing shouldn't carry that over. But then you remember your very first day here, your strength increased by dozens of pounds. What if it did carry over? What if your strength really does grow every single day? It shouldn't be hard to test. Outside the door, the rain is pitter-pattering softly. Inside, you're just sitting there, leaning against the doorframe. He's the only one home. Great Aunt headed out with a bamboo basket to pick some wild greens. He's followed her out a few times before. But every time, she'd convince him to come back home after just a little while. After a thunderstorm, a type of algae called thunder god droppings starts growing on the grassy rocks. It's a bit like wood ear mushrooms, and it makes a soup that tastes incredibly fresh and sweet. 4 days ago, Daning County finally saw some rain, ending the long drought. Since then, it's as if the heavens are trying to make it up to the people. It's rained for 3 days straight. Food prices haven't dropped much yet, but at least some wild greens are starting to grow back. That object wrapped in red paper that Great Aunt took from the earthen stove that day. He finally knows what it was now. It was a pair of jade bracelets. His father had bought them for Great Aunt back when he first became the head catcher. Even when the family had no rice left for the pot, Great Aunt refused to pawn them. It wasn't just to keep a memory alive. She saw those jade bracelets as life-saving money. You've been frail and weak since you were a child. You were always getting sick. She kept those bracelets just in case you fell ill again. So there would be money for medicine to save your life. But in the end, she finally went and pawned them. All for a bag of coarse rice and 2 pounds of meat. Those jade bracelets were worth 20 taels of silver. And she traded them for just a bag of rice and some meat. To be honest, it makes your heart ache. But Great Aunt did it anyway, because the registration for the school is coming up soon. She wanted to make sure you could at least have enough to eat every day so you'd have the strength. The strength to pass the school entrance exams. You only have 7 days left. You've confirmed your suspicion. The effects of the longevity fruit have indeed been inherited by this body. Your strength is truly increasing daily. Since your strength was inherited, your lifespan should more or less have been inherited too. This confirmation gives you a glimmer of hope. Although the daily increase in strength isn't much, it fluctuates around 1 catty. Sometimes it's less than a catty. You've also figured out the reason for this inconsistency. If you eat your fill, the increase is a bit more. If you eat better food, the increase is also a bit more. You surmise that the energy contained in that longevity fruit is like the water in a reservoir. It's stored within your body, held back by a dam. How much water can be released each time depends on how wide you can open the floodgate. The rain has passed, the sky has cleared, and the morning sun is rising. Today, you got up bright and early, put on freshly washed, clean clothes, and drank 2 bowls of rice porridge. You ate 3 eggs and left home under the expectant gaze of your great aunt. Today is the enrollment day for the Daning County Academy. The academy is in the eastern part of the city. The area near the Yunfa clothing workshop is also where the city's powerful and noble families live. Compared to the low-rise houses elsewhere, the eastern district is full of grand courtyards. Head Constable Huang's home is also in the eastern district. When you arrive at the academy, there are already many parents with their children at the entrance, waiting to register. The entire academy gate is bustling with activity, and with some onlookers added to the mix. The street in front of the academy is packed solid. After squeezing through to the academy entrance with great difficulty, you see 2 soldiers standing guard at the gate, holding long spears. Their eyes are sharp and alert. The surrounding commoners dare not come within 10 feet of them. Except for the applicants, no one else is allowed to enter. As the soldiers' gazes sweep over the crowd, many commoners who were pushed to the front desperately back away. In previous years, some fools who got too close ended up with a hole poked through them by a long spear. Seeing this, you walk toward the gate. The 2 soldiers glance at you but don't stop you. With their sharp eyes, they can tell you are not yet 17 years old. As for whether your strength is sufficient, that will be determined by the assessment inside the academy. Stepping through the academy gates, you are greeted by a martial arts training ground. The training ground takes up more than half of the academy's front courtyard. It's extremely wide, with grayish-blue stone slabs laid neatly on the ground. On both sides are weapon racks, where every weapon glints coldly in the sunlight. The atmosphere is grim and solemn. At this moment, there are already dozens of youths on the field. However, most of the youths' expressions are a mix of excitement and nervousness. They stand by themselves, rarely talking, faced with a major test that could change their lives. No one is in the mood to chat. On one side of the training ground, some youths are lining up in front of a table. Behind the table sit 2 middle-aged men. One man is in charge of asking questions, while the other is responsible for writing down the registrations. You consciously get in line behind them to wait for registration, but in your mind, you're thinking, where should I go to find that instructor Lu? Should I ask someone from the academy? Wouldn't that be a bit too obvious? Just as you are pondering this, the candidates in front of you have finished registering. What is your surname and given name? Where do you live? Chu Ning. I live in the 4th Hutong Alley in the southern part of the city, you answer quickly. The man asking the questions asks casually, are there any living martial artists among your elders or relatives? My father, Chu Ping, was a martial artist before he died. He was once a head constable. He just passed away 5 years ago. The man asking the questions doesn't ask anything else. The man on the right, who was in charge of the records, was about to put his pen down the moment he finished writing your name. You glanced at the row of names on the paper and quickly added, but my late father was a good friend of Constable Huang. When he heard I was joining the academy, he was quite pleased. He even told me to look for Instructor Lu once I got in. At this point, you didn't care whether speaking out would cause trouble, because you'd already spotted the foul play in the registration. There were names of examinees on that paper, but you noticed that some of them had small dots behind them. The dots were tiny, just like periods. Any other examinee probably wouldn't have noticed a thing. To you, if there wasn't something fishy about this registration sheet, it would be a miracle. Sure enough, after hearing your words, the man holding the pen straightened it back up. The man on the left asked, "Which Constable Huang, Uncle Huang Zhongtai?" The two men exchanged a look, their eyes filled with an unreadable expression. A moment later, the man with the pen placed a small dot behind your name. Although the dot wasn't as large as some of the others, compared to those with no dot at all. You were doing all right, you understood it now. Those with large dots after their names must have powerful connections. They were the ones to be given priority, while people like you were just regular cases. Regardless of your background or where you come from, the martial apprentice test is how the court selects its successors. No one is allowed to cheat. If you can't pass the test, it won't matter even if you know Instructor Liu. Go over there and line up. Wait for the group testing. The man on the left suddenly barked. He looked the picture of righteousness. Your face turned pale, as you hurriedly apologized. Inside, however, you were scoffing. If I hadn't seen that little circle behind my name, I might have actually believed him. The only reason this instructor was putting on such a show was because there were people waiting in line behind you. They had overheard the conversation, so he had to act out this scene of impartiality for the sake of the Academy's image. With a look of terror on your face, you walked toward the martial arts field. The other examinees in line cast glances of anger and contempt your way. They had all heard the instructor shouting at you. In their minds, they already saw you as the kind of person who tries to cheat their way through. Thankfully, the instructor seems so fair. This gave them a bit more confidence. Seeing the looks in those boys' eyes, you felt a bit helpless. What a bunch of naive kids. Half an hour later, the academy gates swung shut. All the examinees had finished registering, and the two instructors tucked away the list. They headed deeper into the academy, whispering to each other as they walked. There are a few examinees this year with decent family backgrounds. In terms of clout, Chief Huang's should be the greatest. It's just that this Chu Ning kid probably isn't that close to him. Chief Huang was promoted to Chief Inspector last year. Yet, he still calls him Constable Huang. That means their connection isn't very deep. His father was a constable before he died. I'd bet he just begged the Huang family for a favor. Chief Huang probably just decided to help out in a moment of kindness. That's my guess too. Still, even if they aren't close, Chief Huang gave the word. So just let him pass. If he doesn't have the talent, he'll be weeded out in 3 months anyway. At the martial arts field, servants brought out stone blocks one by one. Meanwhile, the examinees received their respective numbers. You looked down at your own tag. 68. A good omen. Using numbers instead of names, the academy's reasoning is to prevent favoritism. You scoffed at this explanation. These instructors already knew which numbers needed special treatment. There were over 200 candidates in the entire training ground. You just stood there for a moment, listening to their conversations. You learned that half of them were just here for the experience. These people are just like you. They're still a year or two away from being 17, and only registered to get a feel for it. To experience the atmosphere and gain some experience. It's just like the college entrance exams. The children of wealthy families can register for the exams in their second year of high school to let them feel the atmosphere beforehand. The academy doesn't charge a registration fee, but each candidate only has 3 chances to apply. If they fail the assessment all 3 times, they're not allowed to register again, even if they're not yet 17. Without this rule, I'm afraid even kids under 10 years old would come running to register for the experience. The academy's attendants set up the stone weights. The instructors began to divide them into groups according to their numbers. Since there were over 200 people, and everyone had 3 chances to lift the stone weight, the academy wanted to speed up the assessment process. They arranged for multiple candidates to be tested at the same time. You were assigned to the 5th group. The one in charge of the assessment was a fair-skinned instructor with a goatee. There were 6 people in your group. The first 5 all failed. And you were the last one. You focused your mind and calmed your breath. Adjust your breathing, don't be disturbed by others. As you walked up to the stone weight, the instructor suddenly said something. You were taken aback. During the first 5 candidates' tests, this instructor hadn't said a single word. It seems Head Constable Huang's influence is working. But a few words of reminder were useless. You still couldn't lift the 200 jin stone weight. You thought about this as you bent down and grabbed the handles on top of the stone weight with both hands. Then you slowly exerted your strength. However, once you lifted the stone weight to your waist, you had no strength left to go higher. You gritted your teeth, the veins on your hands bulging. But in the end, your strength wasn't enough. The stone weight slipped from your grasp and fell to the ground. The stone weight fell to the ground and shattered into 2 pieces. You were stunned. Are these stone weights all shoddily made? The bureaucrats of this era are even more corrupt than in my past life. The goatee-wearing instructor's expression didn't change. He just spoke to an attendant on the side. The stone weight is broken. Bring another one. Soon, the attendant came over, carrying a new stone weight. He placed it in front of you. Its size and appearance were identical to the previous one. Continue, the goatee-wearing instructor said coldly. You rubbed your arms and once again gripped the stone weight's handles. You gave it a light test. And with that test, your expression was first one of shock, then it returned to normal. But your eyes lit up. You understood. So this is how the academy cheats. Damn, they really know how to play games. That previous stone weight, when you gripped the handles and applied a little force, it didn't move an inch. But with this one, when you applied just a little force, the stone weight actually moved. This meant that this new replacement stone weight was much lighter than the previous one. He was able to lift it. But the two stone blocks looked identical from the outside. When you lifted the stone block to your knees, you already had a good idea. This stone block's weight should be around 100 jin, while his current strength is around 120 jin. Lifting the stone block was no problem at all, but he didn't choose to lift it up directly. Instead, he pretended to struggle, lifting the stone block to his waist, then acted as if his hands couldn't take it. He set the stone block down, voluntarily giving up this second chance. The goat-bearded instructor said, "Last try. This time, with your face flushed red and your arms trembling slightly. You lifted the stone block above your head. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 5 breaths. This time, with your face flushed red and your arms trembling slightly. You lifted the stone block above your head. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 5 breaths. Pass." You heard the instructor's words. Not sure if it was from excitement or exhaustion, the stone block slipped from his hands and fell straight to the ground from above his head. It shattered once again. The goat-bearded instructor gave you a meaningful look and said, "Go to the passing area and wait." You bowed to the instructor, then walked towards the passing area. A quarter of an hour later, the examinations for all candidates were over. In total, 36 candidates passed the assessment. As for those who didn't pass, some were crying with their heads down. Those were the 16-year-old candidates. This failure meant they would never have another chance to enter the academy. Others had faces full of regret. These were the ones who could still try again next year. All these failed candidates were led away through a side door by the academy's servants. In the end, only the 36 successful candidates were left in the entire training ground. First, congratulations on passing the assessment and becoming students of the academy. Your batch of candidates is quite good. The strongest one has a strength of 320 jin. There are 7 who can lift over 250 jin. As soon as the instructor said this, all the candidates, including you, looked towards a man and a woman standing at the very front. These two had the best results in this assessment. The man lifted 320 jin, while the female student lifted 300 jin. Starting tomorrow, Instructor Chen and Instructor Lu will teach you martial arts. You may all go home today. Just be at the academy before the Chen hour tomorrow. The instructor then introduced the two instructors beside him. Dawned on you. So this goat-bearded instructor was Instructor Lu. No wonder he gave me a hint. Should I take the opportunity, when everyone disperses, to give the note to this Instructor Lu? You didn't dwell on it for too long. When you saw the candidates dispersing and Instructor Lu about to leave, you quickly followed him. Student Chu Ning thanks Instructor Lu for the reminder just now. You bowed respectfully to Instructor Lu. Lu Junshan stopped in his tracks. What is your real strength? You were taken aback. He's asking so openly, but seeing that there was no one else around, you answered in a low voice, student's true strength is around 120 jin. But seeing that there was no one else around, you answered in a low voice. Student's true strength is around 120 jin. A corner of Lu Junshan's mouth twitched. Your strength was about what he had judged. This was also why he had the servant bring. The reason for the 110-pound stone block was that the phrase he said to the servant was actually a secret code. Only those from the academy could understand it. It specifically referred to that 110-pound stone. If it were any other weight, there would have been a completely different way of saying it. So you deliberately acted like you were struggling? I just thought it would make the act look more convincing, sir. To avoid being noticed by anyone with ulterior motives, Lu Junshan fell silent. To think someone so young could be so thorough. You noticed Lu Junshan's silence. You pulled that slip of paper out from your sleeve. Instructor Lu, Uncle Huang asked me to give this to you. After taking the note and glancing at it, Lu Junshan tucked the paper away and said indifferently, "Since Chief Huang asked me to look after you, if you have any questions regarding martial arts in the future, you can come to my courtyard and ask me anytime." Once he finished speaking, Lu Junshan turned and left. But you were left completely stunned. Chief Huang? Wasn't he Constable Huang? Does this mean he's been promoted? He went from a precinct captain to a bureau chief? A few seconds later, you let out a bitter laugh. Instructor Lu was giving you a subtle hint. That lie you'd been telling everyone, about being close with Chief Huang's family, had probably been seen through by the academy instructors long ago. If they were truly close, how could he possibly not know that Chief Huang had been promoted? You couldn't really blame your great-aunt though. She's just an old woman, how would she know about such things? The fact that she remembered the chief and your late father were once colleagues was already impressive enough. At the Huang estate, he came to express his gratitude right after passing the exam. Huang Zhongtai listened to the butler's report and couldn't help but chuckle. I see. That boy, Chu Ning, says that you and his late father were dear friends, and that you are his elder. He said it was only natural to come and tell you the news so you could share in his joy. The Chu family lives in the southern part of the city. Based on the timing, I'd bet Chu Ning came straight here the moment he left the academy. That kid is sharp, truly sharp. He's trying to cement my status as his uncle, once and for all. Master. I believe Chu Ning knows about your current position now. The message mentioned that you have already been transferred to the position of chief of the patrol guards. Huang Zhongtai tapped his fingers rhythmically on the table. If Chu Ning is smart, when he mentioned me before the exam started, he probably still called me Constable Huang. And those instructors at the academy are all sharp people. They would have realized from his tone that our relationship isn't actually that deep. They wouldn't have told Chu Ning my current rank because they wouldn't be sure why I was helping him out in the first place. There's only one possibility. Chu Ning's talent during the exam was so impressive that it made Liu Junshan feel protective of his potential. He must have given the boy a hint, since old Liu is interested in his talent. And Chu Ning is so quick to show his gratitude. Huang Zhongtai pondered for a moment. My body is still recovering, so it's not convenient for me to see him. Go to the warehouse, grab some nourishing medicinal herbs, and give them to him. Tell him not to disappoint his Uncle Huang's expectations. The butler smiled upon hearing this. Don't worry, master. I know exactly what to do. A few minutes later, you walked out, 100 yards away from the Huang house, carrying a large bundle of herbs. Your expression turned a bit strange. Man, every single one of them is an old fox. This once again served as a reminder to him not to rely on the vast information advantage he had from the real world, and underestimate the people of this one. The next day, the weather was clear. You were wearing clothes that were obviously a bit too large, carrying your belongings as you said goodbye to your great aunt and headed for the academy. The clothes were left by that good-for-nothing father of his, and your great aunt had retailored them over the past few days. The clothes were taken in a bit, but they still looked a little loose on you. It wasn't that she couldn't have made them tighter, but you were at an age where you were still growing. If she'd tailored them to be form-fitting, you probably would have outgrown them in a month or two. Great aunt, you need to eat properly while you're home alone. Once I finish my 6 months at the academy, I'll get a government post with a salary. I know, you must train hard at the academy. If you run into trouble, try to be patient and don't act in the heat of the moment. You listened quietly to your great aunt's admonitions, even though the old woman had said all this last night, and had already repeated it several times. All right, great aunt, I'm off. Don't you go pulling up weeds to eat again, you little rascal. I pulled up all the weeds in the yard yesterday. Even if I wanted to, there's nothing left to eat. You chuckled. Weeds are pretty resilient. After the rain these past few days, the yard is already looking green again. He was afraid that while he was away, his great aunt would try to save money by eating weeds again. Yesterday, not only had he pulled up all the weeds, he had also borrowed 10 taels of silver from the neighbors to buy rice. He had filled the rice container to the brim. If it were before he had been accepted into the academy, the neighbors might not have been willing to lend him the money. But now that he was in the academy, these neighbors were much more agreeable. They all knew that as long as he was at the academy, he could become a bailiff at the yamen after 6 months. Even if he didn't last the full 6 months, he would still have learned secret martial arts techniques. After leaving, he could make a living as a guard for a wealthy family. Join a gang as an enforcer. Either way, he'd be able to pay back the money. You arrived at the academy with an hour to spare before the hour of the dragon. Following the dormitory roster posted on the wall, you found your room number. Room Z3. It was a 2-person room. There were 2 wooden plank beds in the room, and a small courtyard inside. There was a stove, a bathing tub, and some stone stools. Your roommate hadn't arrived yet. You spread out your bedding. You put your clothes in the trunk provided by the dormitory and placed the medicinal herbs from Elder Huang on top. After finishing, you picked up the broom from the backyard and started sweeping the moss and weeds. You placed the medicinal herbs from Elder Huang on top of the clothes, and after finishing, you picked up the broom from the backyard. You started clearing the moss and weeds. When you were about halfway done, a sound came from the dormitory entrance. A young man carrying a large wooden chest walked in. The young man saw you cleaning the courtyard and immediately put the chest down. He walked over quickly. Excuse me. The young man was walking too fast and didn't notice the moss underfoot, and his foot slipped. Both his feet shot forward as his upper body fell backward. Fortunately, the young man reacted quickly, tensing his waist muscles with great force. He managed to pull his falling upper body back upright, but he may have used too much force, as he then started to pitch forward. And in the end, he knelt steadily before you for 15 minutes. Once the 2 of you finished clearing the moss and weeds from the entire courtyard, you finally learned the boy's name. Ji Yong, from Ji family town under the jurisdiction of Daning County. Unlike you, who only lifted stone weights to build strength, according to Ji Yong himself. He had already been training for 2.5 years. Of course, he wasn't studying any secret manuals. Instead, he had been following the clan's martial instructor in town, learning fist techniques to temper his body. Impressive, man, but Ji Yong looked at you, completely confused. Fortunately, the sound of a gong rang out at that moment, saving you from having to explain. When the gong sounds, all students must gather at the martial arts field. By the time you and Ji Yong reached the field, most of the other students had already arrived. A few minutes later, Instructor Chen walked onto the field. From this day forward, you are all students of this academy. The great founder established these schools to seek out and cultivate talent. If you achieve success in the future, you must remember your duty to serve the nation. Instructor Chen's expression was solemn as he looked toward the north. He clasped his hands in a respectful salute, and you and the others followed his lead. After 15 breaths, Instructor Chen finally lowered his hands. Only then did the crowd follow suit. Next, I shall pass down the martial secret manuals to you. After another 15 breaths, Instructor Chen straightened his posture. The crowd lowered their hands again. Now, I will pass down the martial secrets to you. The heart mantra of the Ox Demon Strength. Back then, it was by practicing this very manual that the great founder set out on his path of martial arts. The Ox Demon Strength consists of 6 levels in total. Today, I will first teach you the mantras for the first 3 levels. Listening to Instructor Chen's words, the students grew incredibly excited. They had come to the academy specifically for these martial manuals. Instructor Chen then began to teach everyone the Ox Demon Strength. For the heart mantra, sink your breath into the dantian. Circulate it through 100 vessels. To gather power, first anchor your core. 1 thrust equals 10 units of strength. You followed the breathing techniques taught by the instructor. You began to gather energy using the inhalation and exhalation methods, and soon discovered a force within. Power was surging through your meridians. Was this what they meant by, the true transmission is a single sentence? While the false ones fill a whole library, you had a sudden realization. You glanced at the other students out of the corner of your eye. But they didn't seem nearly as excited. It appeared these students hadn't gained much strength yet. Am I, some kind of martial arts prodigy? Instructor Chen scanned the excited faces of the students. If there is anything you do not understand, you may ask me now. In 3 months, if you cannot exert 500 pounds of force, you will be expelled. However, Instructor Chen's words didn't seem to worry the boys. Every one of them was immersed in the thrill of obtaining the martial mantra. As for being expelled, young people are always full of confidence. None of them believed they would fail to reach 500 pounds of strength in 3 months. Since no one asked any questions, Instructor Chen didn't mind. He simply turned and walked away. As soon as Instructor Chen left, the other students began to whisper among themselves, though most spoke only with their own roommates. They were clearly bonding within their living units. Chu Ning, let's head back to the dorm first. Ji Yong gave you a knowing look. You knew Ji Yong had something private to tell you, so you followed him back to the dormitory. Chu Ning, the martial arts master in my clan is actually my elder cousin, Ji Yong said. He told me that when you first start practicing internal mental techniques, it's a critical time. It's best to supplement with medicinal herbs. That way, you build a solid foundation. Your strength will grow much faster later on. As he spoke, Ji Yong opened a box. He pulled out 6 medicinal packets and tried to hand them to you. You waved your hand in refusal. While Ji Yong looked at you in confusion, you opened your own box and pulled out several packets of herbs as well. The two of you looked at each other and both burst out laughing. Ji Yong looked at the quality of your herbs and said in surprise. The quality of these herbs is even better than mine. But I've never heard of a wealthy Chu family in Daning County. A senior gave them to me, you explained simply. At the same time, you realized that you owed Senior Huang an even greater favor than before. I see, I was actually going to tell you some insider info about the academy. But now it seems like there's no need. You probably already know it anyway. You really wanted to say you didn't know, but after a moment's thought, you kept quiet. After chatting for a bit, Ji Yong took charge of lighting the fire. You were responsible for carrying the water. By the time you filled the water vat, Ji Yong had already gotten the stove fire going. Before putting the herbs and water into the pot, the two of you didn't just stand around waiting in the courtyard. Instead, you headed to the academy's kitchen. The kitchen had already prepared the food, similar to a modern school cafeteria. Everyone took a tray to get their food. 2 meat dishes, 2 vegetable dishes, and all the rice you could eat. In one go, you polished off 6 big bowls of rice. Ji Yong watched you, completely dumbfounded. In his eyes, since you could afford those expensive herbs, your family background couldn't be that bad. Normally, people your age only eat about 2 bowls of rice per meal. Martial artists have bigger appetites and might hit 3 bowls. But these 6 bowls were way beyond his imagination. You gave him the impression that while other students came to the academy for martial arts manuals, you came here just for the free, unlimited food. How could Ji Yong have known? At home, you could only manage 3 bowls of rice for the whole day across 3 meals. You weren't even half full most of the time. The more you eat, the faster your strength grows. Finally finding a place that provides free meals, why wouldn't you eat your heart out? Even after 6 bowls, you only felt 70% full. If you hadn't been worried that being too full would make training difficult, you could have easily downed 8 bowls. After finishing, the two of you left the kitchen and returned to your room. By then, the medicinal liquid was ready. You each poured your decoction into your respective bathtubs. After adding cold water to adjust the temperature, you both stripped down and jumped into the tubs to soak. While soaking, you began to circulate your energy according to what instructor Chin had taught. It was the mental technique for the Ox Demon Strength. After just one circulation cycle, your eyes lit up. You first glanced at Ji Yang and saw that his eyes were closed, his expression unchanged. You knew then that Ji Yang's experience was different from yours. You could clearly feel it. As you ran the cycle, the current of energy inside you moved toward your limbs. A wave of heat would seep into your skin there, merging into that stream of energy. This energy traveled from your dantian, up the Du meridian to the top of your head, then down the Ren meridian back to your dantian. With each cycle that passed, you could clearly see in your tub that the color of the medicinal liquid was getting lighter. After 20 such cycles, the medicinal liquid on your side had become completely clear. You didn't continue to soak any longer, but instead got out of the tub. You glanced over. The liquid in Ji Yang's tub was still a light brown. You chose not to disturb Ji Yang. Glancing over, the medicinal liquid in Ji Yang's tub was still a light brown. You chose not to disturb Ji Yang, put on your clothes, and walked out of the dormitory. The training grounds. It was very quiet at this moment. There wasn't a single person around. You walked over to the row of stone blocks. They were arranged by weight. You walked to the 150 Jin stone block, squatted down, and gripped it by its indented handles. With a burst of strength, you lifted the stone block above your head. You lifted it with ease. The 160 Jin stone block, you still lifted it. But it was with some difficulty. The 170 Jin stone block. You lifted it over your head, but couldn't hold it for 5 breaths. Although you failed, your eyes held an unconcealable excitement. Cultivating the bull demon strength. On the very first day, it had actually increased your strength by nearly 60 Jin. It was simply incredible. You didn't try again, nor did you stay on the training grounds. Instead, you quickly headed back towards the dormitory. You didn't know about the others, but you believed that gaining this much strength on the first try, nearly 60 Jin, was definitely not normal. Was it because the martial arts manual had widened the floodgates for your body to store the longevity fruit's energy? It seemed you needed to revise the formula for the release rate. By the time you returned to the dormitory, Ji Yang had also gotten out of his tub, a confident expression on his face. Chu Ning, I feel like I could take down a tiger right now, he said, waving his fists. You feel your strength has increased? You asked curiously. Of course it has. I don't know the exact amount, but it should be about 10 Jin. Ji Yang walked to the stone block in the courtyard and lifted the 220 Jin block from the ground. My judgment was correct. It really did increase by 10 Jin. What about you, Chu Ning? He asked. I probably gained at least 10 Jin, too. You were telling the truth. 60 Jin also counted as at least 10 Jin. To gain so much strength on the first day, reaching 500 Jin in 3 months would be easy. To gain so much strength on the first day, reaching 500 Jin in 3 months would be easy. Ji Yang rolled his eyes. How could it be that easy? It's only because we just started with the martial arts manual. The first day has this kind of miraculous effect. The further we go, the slower the growth will be. My uncle said that practicing martial arts is a long-term endeavor. It requires day and night of hard training to temper the muscles and bones. One step at a time. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You added. Ji Yang clenched his fists. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. I didn't expect you to be so good at summarizing, Chu Ning. Let's work hard together. Let's strive to become martial masters in 3 years. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Your and Ji Yang's daily life was a simple routine. At mealtimes, you'd go to the academy's mess hall to eat. After eating, you'd return to the dormitory courtyard to practice martial arts. All the students in the academy were the same. Everyone's first goal is to pass the 3-month, 500 Jin assessment. On the 15th day, Ji Yang's bull demon strength cultivation reached the 2nd level. Yet you were still stuck on the 1st level. This made you realize that your aptitude in martial arts wasn't high. However, you weren't discouraged. Because you had a cheat, a 10,000-year lifespan plus strength that grew every day. You could make up for your lack of martial arts aptitude. Bull demon strength. Ji Yang, having broken through to the 2nd level, already had a strength of 320 Jin. As for you, your bull demon strength was still at the 1st level, yet your strength was already 280 Jin. Keep in mind, when you entered the academy, your initial strength wasn't 200 Jin, but 100 Jin. In terms of strength gained, you had surpassed Ji Yang. On the 35th day, your bull demon strength finally broke through to the 2nd level. At this point, your strength had already reached 300 Jin. Day 63. Your strength reached 7,390 Jin, while Ji Yang only had 380 Jin. With 1 month left, you knew that as long as you broke through to, while Ji Yang only had 380 Jin, there was 1 month left. You knew that as long as you broke through to bull demon strength, the 3rd level, reaching 500 Jin would be no problem. Ji Yang, on the other hand, was getting anxious. Day 65. Chu Ning, let's go to the mess hall and buy some beef. Ji Yang wanted to supplement his diet. His medicinal herbs were already used up. just relying on the free meals provided by the mess hall, even though they had some meat. That bit of meat was pitifully small. He was afraid he wouldn't meet the 500 jin requirement in 3 months. Beef strengthens bones and increases power. His uncle had told him that before he came. You can spend money to buy beef at the mess hall. You go ahead. I'll pass. My family didn't give me that much money. You smiled and shook your head. The academy did provide meat and medicinal herbs. You had also seen many students buying them, but the price was nearly 10 times what it was outside. You only had 1 tael of silver on you. In the academy, that amount of money couldn't even buy the portion of beef in a bowl of lanzhou. Pulled noodles. Ji Yong fell silent. He knew you were telling the truth. You had all been living together for over 2 months. He already knew about your family's financial situation. At dinner time that evening, Ji Yong didn't come to the mess hall with you. Usually, you would eat 8 bowls. But this time, you ate 10 bowls, stuffing yourself completely. After eating, you didn't hurry back to the dormitory. Instead, you walked behind the mess hall to the Block A dormitory area. The students living in Block A were all those who scored above 250 jin on the entrance assessment. Moreover, each of them had a private room. For the 7 students living in Block A, achieving 500 jin in 3 months wasn't difficult. So, unlike you and the others, who were living in Block B and training desperately, the Block A students would instead visit each other's rooms to socialize. You hesitated for a moment, and knocked on the door of room 6 in Block A. Is that you, Brother Lin? Just a moment, a voice called from inside. In a moment, the door opened. A young man wearing an inner shirt of silk opened the door. But upon seeing it was Chu Ning at the door, the young man wearing an inner shirt of silk opened the door. But upon seeing it was Chu Ning at the door, the smile on his face vanished. Who are you? What business do you have knocking on my door? Brother He, I am a student from House He. Stop. He Jin directly cut you off. I'm not familiar with you. I am not worthy of you calling me that. Brother He, if you have something to say it quickly. In your heart, you understood that in the minds of these House Ja students, they likely never considered the students from House He as their classmates. Young Master He, you changed your form of address. A noble young master from a prestigious family like yourself only needs to focus on practicing martial arts. How could you do menial chores like fetching water? I can be of service to you. 1 tael of silver per job. Ji Yong chose to buy beef for dietary supplements. You also need to plan ahead. If your bull demon strength technique still can't break through to the 3rd level, you'll also have to rely on dietary and medicinal supplements. And as you thought it over, you could earn money by carrying water for these House Ja students. The school's servants and menial staff are not allowed to enter the dormitory area where the students live. This was something you got from the gatekeeper when you last sent a letter home. Even if the students from House Yi had money, they'd probably spend it on themselves. But the people from House Ja have no pressure and are not short on money. 2 taels of silver? He Jin frowned. He certainly wasn't short of 1 or 2 taels of silver, but the servant at home responsible for cleaning the entire courtyard doesn't even get 1 tael for a month's allowance. 2 taels of silver is surely nothing to a young master like you. Young Master Zhang from House Ja, room 5 just gave me this job too. You added. This time, He Jin didn't hesitate, because he and Zhang Song from House Ja, room 5 did not get along. Their 2 families had some conflicting business interests in Daning County. Since Zhang Song had already agreed, if he didn't agree, wouldn't that imply that his He family was inferior to the Zhang family? Come once every day from now on. Here are 10 taels of silver. To 1-up Zhang Song, He Jin directly tossed a silver ingot to you. Here are 10 taels of silver. To 1-up Zhang Song, He Jin directly tossed a silver ingot to you. You accepted it with a smile. Thank you, young Master He. As for the animosity between He Jin and Zhang Song, it was something you happened to see while eating in the mess hall. At that time, He Jin and Zhang Song had almost gotten into a fight. You had committed that scene to memory, and now it came in handy. After taking the money, you got to work on the spot. After filling He Jin's water vat and 4 buckets with water, you repeated the same process and went to knock on the doors of other House Ja students. Ja 7. Room Ja 2. You knocked on the door. There was no answer. You frowned. Could it be that this person isn't home? The one living in room Ja 2 is, from their batch, the only female student, and also the one who ranked 2nd in the assessment, Tang Ruowei. Stop knocking. A woman's voice came from behind. You turned around, dressed in firewood-colored martial arts attire. Tang Ruowei, her fine figure accentuated by the clothes, was standing 10 meters behind you. Tang Ruowei is looking at you, her expression complex as she sizes you up. She had previously gone to the backyard to ask Instructor Liu about a martial arts question. On her way back, she saw a man standing, loitering around their Ja House dormitory area. This piqued her curiosity. She didn't say anything, wanting instead to see what this man was going to do. And then she watched as this person knocked on He Jin's door and swindled 10 taels of silver out of him. After that, he tricked Zhang Song out of 20 taels of silver, and then got silver from other students as well. Young Master Zhang, there's something I need to tell you first. I have to finish fetching water for young Master Yi before I can get to yours. Young master, he paid 10 taels of silver all at once. Young master Zhu, there's something I need to explain to you first. Young master Zhang and young master, he gave me 30 taels of silver up front, so I have to finish their water deliveries before I can get to yours. Don't you worry, I'm very quick and efficient. I'll have it fetched in no time. It was with this kind of sales pitch that you had already collected over 100 taels, and the whole process was witnessed by someone. You're not the least bit embarrassed. Making money is nothing to be ashamed of. Sigh, I don't have a choice either. My family is poor, and my strength isn't up to standard. If I don't make some money, I'm afraid I won't be able to pass the 500 jin assessment in 3 months. A troubled look crossed your face, and the next moment, you suddenly said, Miss Tang, you have a kind heart. I was wondering, do you think you can just walk into the women's dormitory? Tang Ruowei knew what you were about to say. She cut him off immediately. You were at a loss for words. You were so focused on your business you forgot about that. This isn't a case of a lonely young housewife with a clogged drain. In modern times where you can just call a plumber to come over and fix it. I was being presumptuous. Also, I'd advise you not to knock on Zhao Qin's door. Zhao Qin hates being disturbed when he's practicing his martial arts. If you knock on that door, I'm afraid you won't just fail to get any money. You'll also get a beating. Thank you for the warning, Miss Tang. You cupped your fists in gratitude. To show your appreciation, I can deliver the water right to your door for only half a tael of silver. Tang Ruowei, that's already a 50% discount. You said earnestly, I don't need your discount. Here's 1 tael of silver. Tang Ruowei tossed a money pouch over. You caught it, felt its weight, and smiled very happily. Don't worry, Miss Tang. I guarantee you'll be the first to get your water. So, I'm supposed to feel very honored by this? With that, you left the Jia house area. You didn't go back to your dorm, but instead headed to the gatehouse. Every student could write letters here and have the gatekeeper mail them. Having been at the academy for 2 months, you had written 2 letters home. You also wrote 1 letter to Elder Wang Dai. The letters to your great aunt were mostly to let her know you were safe. So your great aunt wouldn't worry. As for the letter to Elder Wang Dai, it was mainly about your own progress with martial arts training at the academy. You thought of yourself as a poor university student, and Elder Wang Dai as the kind benefactor who sponsored your education. You were reporting your academic progress at school to this kind person. And Elder Wang Dai as the kind benefactor who sponsored your education. You were reporting your academic progress at school to this kind person. So that he would feel his donation wasn't in vain and could also feel a sense of accomplishment. He might not necessarily need you to succeed, but at the very least, you had to show that you were grateful. If, on top of that, your results were excellent, he would be even more pleased. Following the same pattern, after first writing a letter to your great aunt, you pick up your brush to write the second letter. Uncle Huang, your nephew, Chu Ning, respectfully writes. As with the last letter, I first thank Uncle Huang for his help. Thanks to you, I am able to practice martial arts at the academy. After a few such pleasantries, you get to the main point. I have been at the academy for 60 days now. Your nephew understands that learning martial arts is not easy. I have not dared to slack off, training hard day and night. Your nephew is of dull aptitude, not like my fellow students. When I have questions I cannot resolve, I seek out the instructor, waiting for an opportune moment. I must look exceedingly respectful, not daring to utter a single word in reply. When he appears pleased, I then ask my question. Therefore, though your nephew is dull, I am finally able to learn something. In my lodgings, I have no enjoyment of fresh, rich, and flavorful food. The other students in my dormitory are all dressed in fine silks, wearing hats adorned with red tassels and jewels. They wear white jade rings at their waists and a saber on their left. On their right, they carry fragrant sachets, shining as if they were divine beings. Your nephew, in my humble robes, stands among them with not the slightest hint of envy. For I have a joy within me that makes me unaware that my food and clothing are not as good as others. Such is your nephew's diligence and hardship. After writing this, you pay the porter 5 qian of silver and ask him to send these 2 letters out immediately. You walk back to the dormitory. Upon entering, the smell of meat assaults your nostrils. You swallow hard. Luckily, you had just eaten your fill. In the small courtyard, Ji Yong was scooping beef out of a pot. Seeing you return, he quickly called out, Chu Ning. I bought a leg of beef earlier. It's all cooked now. Come and eat with me. I already ate my fill in the mess hall. If I'd known you brought back beef, I would have eaten less. Now I really can't eat another bite. You lift your shirt, revealing a round belly. Ji Yong laughed. Would have eaten less. Now I really can't eat another bite. You lift your shirt, revealing a round belly. Ji Yong laughed and said, now you're blaming me? It's not like I'm the one who made you eat so much. Lying on your own bed. Although Ji Yong was careful not to make a sound as he gnawed on the beef leg, the rich aroma of meat was impossible to hide. You stare at the ceiling. The letter you wrote to Huang Daizong was half filled with your true feelings. Of all the students in the academy, your family's circumstances were likely the worst. If you want your strength to grow quickly, you need to have proper nutrition. And in this era, nutrition means eating meat. The families of the students who pass the assessment, even if they don't eat meat every single meal, At least they aren't eating vegetables every meal like you are. To say you're not envious? That's nonsense. If you weren't envious, the author of the preface to Sending Off Ma from Dongyang, why would he have remembered the food and clothing of his classmates in such clear detail? You simply close your eyes, listening to Ji Yang quietly tidying up the beef bones and walking out of the dormitory. You sigh inwardly. You fear that your friendship as roommates with Ji Yang is about to come to an end. Today, you refused him with the excuse of being full. What about tomorrow? If I ate the beef that Ji Yang bought, 1 or 2 meals would be fine, but any more than that and I'm afraid Ji Yang would start to resent it. Although Ji Yang's family background is good, it's not considered top tier. The martial master in his clan is only his paternal cousin, not his actual uncle. If I didn't eat any of it, and Ji Yang ate the beef alone in the dormitory, he would also feel a bit awkward and embarrassed. It's already destined that we will slowly grow apart. It's not my fault. It's not Ji Yang's fault either. The fault lies in my own poverty. On the 70th day, your strength reaches 7,410 jin. Over the past 7 days, it has increased by 20 jin. At this rate, reaching 500 jin in 3 months is a bit risky. I need to use nutritional supplements to break through to the 3rd level of the Ox Demon Strength. You go to the mess hall and buy a leg of beef. 1 leg of beef costs 30 taels. That's 10 times the price outside. And just half a month ago, a leg of beef was only 20 taels. The medicinal herbs are even more expensive. A leg of beef was only 20 taels. The medicinal herbs are even more expensive. So expensive that after you asked for the price of 1 herb, you turned around and left. He could only sigh that the buyer is never as shrewd as the seller. The mess hall owner has completely figured out the students' changing psychology. At the beginning, all the students were confident in themselves. The beef, medicinal herbs, and so on didn't sell well. After all, the prices were so high. But as the 3-month deadline approached, the students whose strength wasn't increasing satisfactorily started to get anxious. Even if the price is high, they have to buy it, just like frantic gamblers. They know it's a high-interest loan, yet they dare to borrow, because as long as they win one hand, they can make it all back. Put the leg of beef in the pot to cook, and you didn't call for Ji Yang. Because Ji Yang doesn't come back to the dormitory anymore. When Ji Yang first started eating the beef, he was too embarrassed to eat alone in front of you, so he went to dormitory A8 to eat with Huang Chen from room A8. He would only come back at night to sleep. According to Ji Yang himself, Huang Chen's father is also a martial master and is on good terms with his paternal cousin. But after Ji Yang saw you carrying water for Huang Chen, he didn't come back that night. You ran into Ji Yang several times while delivering water to Huang Chen's door, but Ji Yang acted as if he didn't see him. You understand in your heart that Ji Yang feels it's disgraceful to share a dormitory with you. After all, among so many students, you are the only one doing the menial chores of a servant. But you didn't mind because he had already anticipated this outcome. And he didn't resent Ji Yang either. This is just how people think in this world. Like those scholars in ancient times, who, even when impoverished and destitute, would rely on others for aid to get a meal. They would never be willing to work as an accountant for someone or run a small business. Because being poor could be considered a low point, but to go into business or work for a merchant, that would be willingly debasing oneself. It's a difference in mindset and perception. It has nothing to do with the person. 4 legs of beef, finished in 4 days. Your strength has reached 440 jin, but you still haven't broken through to the 3rd level of the Ox Demon Strength. There are only 15 days left until the assessment, and I have no more money to buy beef legs. Those few from the A-rank dormitories have already paid for the entire month. It's impossible for them to give any more. Those guys aren't fools. They have already paid for the entire month. It's impossible for them to give any more. Those guys aren't fools. What if I don't pass the 3-month assessment and get eliminated? Then all that extra money will have gone down the drain if there's no assessment. You aren't actually in a rush, because even if he doesn't eat beef, his strength grows steadily by 3 pounds every day, so in a year, he could reach 1,000 pounds. The problem is the school has an assessment, and if he doesn't reach 500 pounds, it means he'll have to pack his bags and leave, which means he won't be able to work at the magistrate's office. He won't be able to get the Ox Demon Strength technique for the last 3 levels. Should I really go find Instructor Liu again? Cheat again? You mutter to yourself. But you immediately dismiss the idea. If the instructors hadn't seen through it before, he might have pulled it off by using Chief Huang's influence, but those instructors all know that he and Huang aren't actually that close. The school won't let me get away with cheating again. Huang Manor. Huang Zhongtai returns home on his horse. The servants step forward to take the horse while the steward walks beside him, giving him a report. He'd been away from Daning County for 1 month, and many things had happened at the manor and in town. After finishing the report, the steward seemed a bit hesitant. Huang Zhongtai noticed the look on his face and asked, "Is there something else, master?" Another letter came from the school from Chu Ning. The steward was hesitant, because of the letter sent from the school 1 month ago, which they said was from Chu Ning. The master had looked at it once and then ignored it. "Bring it to me, let me see." Huang Zhongtai spoke as he walked inside, and the steward hurriedly handed him the letter. Huang Zhongtai tore the letter open. After just a few glances, his footsteps faltered. A look of deep emotion crossed his face. Master? The steward asked, seeing him stop in his tracks. He was curious about what was written in that letter to move the master so much. This boy possesses incredible willpower. Huang Zhongtai sighed with emotion. He didn't head to his bedroom anymore, but turned toward his study instead. On the 85th day, your strength reached 470 pounds. The ox demon strength still hadn't broken through the 3rd level. Over the past few days, he'd gone to Instructor Lu's courtyard several times, wanting to go in and see where things stood, but each time he stood at the door, he couldn't bring himself to enter. He was still clinging to a sliver of hope. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the ox demon strength will finally reach the 3rd level. Now, that hope had been completely shattered. Standing before Instructor Lu's courtyard once again, you didn't hesitate this time and went straight to knock on the door. But just as your hand reached for the door knocker, the gate opened on its own. Instructor Lu was standing there, holding a package in his hands. He just stared at you. Even though you'd developed quite a thick skin in your previous life, your face began to flush with heat under Instructor Lu's piercing gaze, which seemed to see right through your soul. After a long silence, just as you were about to speak, Lu Junshan said flatly, "There's a letter here for you from Chief Huang." The contents of this package were also sent by Chief Huang. Usually, the school doesn't allow outside items to be delivered. If they did, they'd never sell their own overpriced medicinal herbs and meat. But Chief Huang is a special case. If he wants to send something, the school isn't going to stop him. Your eyes widened slightly in surprise, and then the realization hit you. Thank you, Teacher Lu. I'll take these with me. You take the letter and the parcel handed over by Teacher Lu. After thanking him, you turn to leave. If you have any doubts, seek out your teacher, or if you run into difficulties. Your expression grows more humble, and your manners even more respectful. You don't dare utter a single word in reply, waiting until he is in good spirits before asking your questions again. Your essay is actually quite well written. If there's anything you don't understand in the future, just come and ask me. You walk about 10 meters away. Hearing Teacher Lu's voice drifting from behind, your body stiffens. He knows that Chief Huang must have shared the contents of his letter with Teacher Lu. Teacher Lu has misunderstood. He thinks I'm being mistreated over at Teacher Chen's place. He only did this to show respect to the original author. You turn around. You bow respectfully. He only did this to show respect to the original author. You turn back and give a respectful bow. I understand, sir. Watching Chu Ning's retreating back, Teacher Lu narrows his eyes slightly. He hadn't thought much of Chu Ning at first. He only gave the boy a pointer back then because he seemed clever, but he didn't give it another thought afterward. Not until he received Chief Huang's letter today. In the letter, Chief Huang mentioned that Chu Ning had written to him, and he even included several passages from Chu Ning's letter. Those few lines, filled with such raw, sincere emotion, had deeply moved Chief Huang. But for him, reading them sparked a profound resonance. Unlike Chief Huang, who was born into nobility, he also came from a poor family when he first started practicing martial arts, so he felt the weight of Chu Ning's words even more. The hardships we face in private can be overcome, but the dignity we hold in front of others is incredibly fragile. Of course, the most important point is that your progress has been undeniable. You've gone from barely 100 jin to nearly 500 jin now. This kind of growth has already surpassed half of the students in the academy. You return to your dorm with an excited heart. You open the parcel immediately. When you see the medicinal herbs inside, your eyes turn slightly red. How many years has it been? His emotions haven't fluctuated this violently in a long time. In his past life, only when he made his first bucket of gold and when his company went public did he feel such a surge of emotion. The former was because only he knew just how hard it was to get that first bit of wealth and how much humiliation he had to endure. And the latter was the ultimate reward for all his years of hard work. Could I be influenced by the original soul? You then smile and shake your head, dismissing the thought. It has nothing to do with the original owner. It's just that he clearly realizes, even though he has a lifespan of 10,000 years and the energy of the longevity fruit, ensuring his future won't be too bad. If he failed to continue his education, he would end up wasting a very long period of time. Longevity doesn't mean one should just idle their life away. Eternal life is still lived day by day. If that's the case, why not live well from the very beginning? If I want to live a good life, joining the district office as an official messenger is currently the most ideal and stable path. Everything he knows about this world comes from the original owner of this body. But the original owner was just a boy living at the bottom of society. Did he truly understand this world? Even in his past life, an era of high information transparency, ordinary people still didn't know that the world exists in two separate circles. A circle that a common person could never touch in their entire life. In that circle, the way things are done is completely different from the world of ordinary people. A single dinner can decide the fate of a position that an ordinary person couldn't reach even after a lifetime of hard work. A single sentence can decide the life or death of a company. It can turn the world upside down and leave countless people bankrupt and ruined. But a single admission of defeat could wipe it all away. It was that way in my past life. But what about this world? Before I figure all of this out, entering the civil service is the safest path, because it means joining the side that holds the power in this world. I pull my thoughts back. You take a batch of medicinal herbs forward, while at the same time opening the letter Chief Huang gave you. Chief Huang's reply was brief, expressing that he already knew how hard it was for you to practice martial arts. He sent some herbs to support you. The simpler the content, the more certain you are that your relationship with Chief Huang has grown even closer. Because there is less small talk and fewer flowery, empty words. Those in power only speak this way to those they are close to. 2 hours later, the herbs are brewed, and you begin your medicinal bath. Day 86. This night, you sit in the tub, still circulating. The mental cultivation technique of the bull demon strength. A long-lost heat emerges from your dantian, but this time it doesn't just flow to the crown of your head. Instead, it slowly spreads through your entire body, and you begin to burn up. Your temperature even exceeds that of the medicinal liquid, which is being absorbed through your pores. At several times the usual speed. This is an experience you have never had before. After 3 full cycles of circulation, snap. A sound like a firecracker exploding rings out from your body, and the remaining liquid splashes out of the tub. Bones chiming and skin vibrating. This is the sign of the bull demon strength reaching the 3rd level. You step out of the tub and look at the stone weights in the courtyard. Your gaze doesn't stop at the 500-pound weight, but goes straight to the 550-pound one. With a firm grip, you lift the stone weight directly up. 550 pounds. In these final 2 days, his strength finally surpassed the 500-pound threshold. But that wasn't the greatest gain. The greatest gain was that the bull demon strength, after reaching the 3rd level, is more than just a simple increase in power. A heat current appeared in his body. Wherever this current flows, that body part's strength increases. No wonder the academy requires 500 pounds. Just to continue your studies. It all makes sense now. The first 3 months at the academy were nothing but constant training of the bull demon strength. Only by breaking through to the 3rd level can one truly practice martial arts. What Instructor Liu teaches must be those martial arts. The 3 months are up. Dragon King returns to his throne. A crooked smirk. All students are to be tested in order. Instructor Chen's voice snaps you out of your wandering thoughts as you look at the single stone weight placed before the line. You know he's right, no one can cheat on this exam. The first in line are from Class A, all 7 easily lifted the stone weight. Next was Class B. One of the 2 students from Group B1 failed. The failing student stood aside, his face full of resentment. He was just 2 breaths away from succeeding. Instructor, please, I beg you, give me one more chance. I'll definitely make it this time. My family sold everything just so I could come here. They sold all our fields. If I fail now, I have no face to return home. Those words sent a wave of shared anxiety through the Group B students. Because his struggle was their struggle, after all. A heavy silence fell over them. His struggle was theirs, even if their families hadn't sold the clothes off their backs. They had still emptied most of their savings to support their martial arts training. If they failed now, they truly wouldn't have the heart to face their parents. You can understand why these students and their parents made such a desperate gamble. It was just like the college students back in the 1980s or 90s. As long as a child got into a university, the parents would literally get on their knees to borrow the tuition money. Getting an education meant escaping the poverty of the countryside and making it in the city. It meant having a stable, respectable career. In the Liang dynasty, the power of an official was even greater than in previous eras. After all, this was a world where might makes right. If you didn't fall in line, they'd crush you. If they couldn't crush you, they'd recruit you. Studying at the academy for 6 months, even if you weren't someone who could just inherit a position, meant your prospects were far better than someone who only studied for 3. It was a damn pity. Instructor Chen's expression didn't flicker at all. He had seen this scene play out far too many times. With a sharp wave of his hand, the servant stepped forward and dragged the student away. I hope the rest of you keep some dignity. Don't force me to have you thrown out of here. The assessment continues. Those words made everyone still waiting for their turn shiver. The next 2 candidates still failed to pass the test. But with that previous guy being dragged out as a warning, these 2 managed to keep their emotions in check. They walked back to the dorms in silence to pack their things. Then, Ji Yong stepped up with a confident smirk. He walked to the stone weight and hoisted it up with total ease. Xu Ning, step forward. As soon as Instructor Chen called your name, every eye in the place landed on you. While every student was watched during their turn. The looks they gave you were filled with a very different kind of intensity. To the Group A students, you were just a pathetic, poor worm who didn't know his place. You were a nobody who refused to accept his lot in life. And to the Group B students, you were someone who had degraded himself. Did you really think you could succeed by doing a servant's work, like hauling water? They saw you as a pathetic worm who was too stubborn to give up. They thought you were pathetic for lowering yourself to manual labor just to get by. How naive, they thought. Ji Yang's gaze was the most complicated of all. He shared a room with you, after all. You'd acted so high and mighty, refusing to eat his beef, only to turn around and do chores for a few coins to buy your own meat. To him, that felt like a direct slap in the face. That was why he was so frustrated with you. He was angry at your lack of ambition, and angry at your fake pride. You debased yourself for nothing, he thought. You're going to fail anyway, and then everyone will laugh at you. You saw the judgment in everyone's eyes and took it all in. Without a word, you walked to the stone and gripped the handles with both hands. You lifted the weight over your head, perfectly following the rules, and held it there for 2 full breaths. Pass. The moment Instructor Chen said that one word, the entire field fell deathly silent. Zhao Qin, standing with his hands behind his back, felt his pupils contract. But he quickly went back to staring at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Tang Ruowei's large eyes blinked in surprise. Your performance was completely unexpected. As for Zhang Song, He Jin, and the other Group A students, their faces looked like they'd just stepped in dog crap. This was a guy they'd already dismissed as no different from a servant. He actually passed the exam and became their classmate. The students from Class B had their jaws hanging open. The clown in their eyes had actually made the cut. Under this bizarre atmosphere, the assessment continued. In the end, only 14 out of the 36 students managed to lift the 500-pound stone block. Those 14 could stay at the academy, while the 22 students who were disqualified went back to their dorms to pack their bags and head home. Instructor Chen left immediately after the test ended. Meanwhile, Xu Ning and the other passing students remained on the training grounds. Fellow classmates, starting today, we'll be spending 2.5 years together at this academy. I've already ordered a banquet at the dining hall. I hope you'll all do me the honor of joining so we can get to know one another. Jinla spoke up with a cheerful smile. He was a student from room B1. He had been able to lift the 500-pound stone 7 days ago and had been busy arranging this feast ever since. Prices at the academy have a unique quirk. They drop significantly right after an assessment. Although it was still pricier than the outside world, it was nothing to these students. Otherwise, if prices stayed that high for the next 2.5 years, even the richest man in Daning County couldn't afford it. After every 3-month assessment, a dinner for the remaining students was an old tradition. In the hearts of these survivors, those who were kicked out weren't truly their classmates, because their potential and social status were now on different levels. It was cruel, but that was reality. He expected everyone to agree, but to Jin Li's surprise, his proposal was rejected. I still need to train. No time. Ji Yang was the first to walk away. I don't have time either. If you want to party, go ahead without me. I have to get back for my medicinal bath. The students from Class A began leaving one after another. Even the Class B students started making up excuses to slip away. Jinla looked completely baffled. What's going on here? You looked at Jin Li's bewildered expression. It was honestly quite funny. This guy had no clue what the situation was. But your mind was as clear as a mirror. You knew exactly why they were leaving. They didn't want to sit at the same table as you. In their eyes, you were nothing more than a servant. Now that you've moved up in the world, the thought of sharing a meal with you made them feel sick to their stomachs. Tang Ruowei didn't really care at first. But seeing everyone else leave, she simply congratulated you and headed out as well. Brother Jin, how about just the two of us go eat? You looked at Jinla, the only one remaining besides you, and made the suggestion. Jin Li's face twitched. He wasn't a fool. He hadn't realized it at first, but now he understood exactly why no one was showing up. However, he'd already paid the dining hall for the food, and he couldn't bring himself to reject you to your face. Although everyone felt a bit awkward around Xu Ning, since he could lift 500 pounds. There was no need to make an enemy of him, even if they weren't friends. But if he went to eat with Xu Ning, how would the others view him? What would they think if he was seen socializing with a servant? My stomach actually hurts a bit. Look, I've already paid the money. Xu Ning, if you want to eat, just go and enjoy it yourself. Well, that's a real shame. But don't you worry. I won't let your money go to waste, Brother Jin, you whispered to his retreating back. Brother Jin is truly such a good man. The next day, the sky is clear, and the sun is shining bright. You and the others stand on the training grounds, looking at Lu Junshan with eyes full of excitement. After 3 months of martial arts training, your strength has already surpassed that of ordinary people. But raw strength alone is not enough. A true martial artist must learn to master their own power. You agree with Lu Junshan's words in your heart. You must learn to unleash your strength to its fullest potential. To put it simply, their current strength is just lifting strength. In your past life, an ordinary person's punch was at most twice their lifting capacity. But professional boxers, through proper technique, speed, and training every muscle in the body to coordinate power, could explode with more than 3 times their weight and force. From this day forward, I will teach you the Bull Demon Fist. Watch carefully once. As he finished speaking, Lu Junshan stood tall and straight, his entire aura shifting in that very instant. As he stepped forward with his right foot, it felt as if you and the others were looking at a massive, crazed bull, raising its hooves and charging straight toward you. 2 students instinctively backed away several steps. Lu Junshan twisted his waist, turning his body as his long arm whipped out like a lash. That arm actually let out a sharp crack, a sound that struck deep into the soul. No one even noticed when Lu Junshan had shifted his weight and moved 5 meters away. His fist slammed into a 1,000-pound stone pillar by the training field, sending stone shards flying everywhere. Many students were hit by the shards, but at this moment, none of them cared about the pain. Their eyes were glued to that 1,000-pound stone pillar, their breathing growing rapid and heavy. The stone pillar had shattered into over a dozen pieces. Holy crap, you couldn't help but shout out in shock, your eyes nearly popping out of your head. Though the original body's father was also a martial master, he had never shown off his skills like this. No wonder the great Liang dynasty values martial artists so much. If a mere school instructor has this kind of power, then why bother being a scholar? Why talk about logic or reason? Just using martial virtue to make people submit is enough. As you finished your sentence, everyone else at the scene turned their gazes toward you. Even Lu Junshan did the same, although they didn't know what "holy crap" actually meant. They could tell by your tone that it certainly wasn't a polite expression. Seeing the reaction, you quickly added, such strength to move mountains, such spirit to eclipse the world. Instructor, this student was just too excited and lost his composure. Strength to move mountains, spirit to eclipse the world. Lu Junshan repeated your words, they sounded quite pleasing to his ears. But he still spoke sternly, don't talk such nonsense. Strength to move mountains is something only the founding emperor of our dynasty could achieve. Yes, this student knows his mistake. I won't speak such nonsense again. Lu Junshan glanced at the stirred-up crowd. He had gone through the exact same thing back in his day. Knowing what these students were thinking, he didn't waste time and said directly. When the bull demon fist is mastered to its limit, your striking power can reach 10 times your raw strength. Even if you only reach basic mastery, it can still reach 5 times. From today on, besides your usual cultivation of the final 3 levels of the bull demon internal force, I still need to practice the bull demon fist. For the next hour, Lu Junshan taught you and the other students the final 3 layers of the bull demon strength and the bull demon fist. All the moves were shared. As they say, a single word of truth is worth 1,000 books of lies. The cultivation secrets for the final 3 layers of the bull demon strength weren't long. Everyone memorized them quickly, but as for the fist techniques, those can't be mastered overnight. It's going to be a long, grueling process. After Lu Junshan left, the other students headed back to their dorms. Since a group had been cut, the remaining 14 of you now get the luxury of having a private room. Before heading back, you stopped by the gatehouse. You wrote 2 more letters, one for your great aunt, and another for Chief Huang. You handed the gatekeeper 100 yuan, and asked him to deliver 5 taels of silver back home. That was every last bit of money you had left. You knew deep down, those other students wouldn't pay you to do their chores anymore. Without money, even if the herbs and meat were cheap, you wouldn't be able to afford them. Without money, even if the herbs and meat were cheap, you wouldn't be able to afford them. For the next 3 months, you decided to just go with the flow. Going with the flow didn't mean you'd stop training. It just meant you wouldn't stress over rigid goals. After all, your main goal had already been met. Now, you just had to wait out the 6 months, and then join the government office for a steady paycheck. It wasn't that you didn't want to stay at the academy, but life wouldn't allow it. Your great aunt is all alone at home. You have to earn a living to support her. There's no way to make money at the academy. Besides, your martial arts talent isn't exactly elite. You weren't going to shock the world. The energy from that everlasting fruit was more of a slow, steady burn. Once the 6 months are up and you leave, you can use Chief Huang's connections. Getting assigned to a lucrative post and moving up the ranks, that's the safest way to live. They say the wind of a galloping youth is more precious than gold, because you only get to be young once. A person's life is limited. But right now, you hold the wind in your left hand. And gold in your right. You're holding a winning hand. With such a perfect start, as long as you stay steady, you can't lose. Leaves turned from green to yellow, then withered away. On the training grounds, the young men wore only thin layers, shouting at the top of their lungs as they sparred in pairs. To master the fist, you need real combat. Your opponent was Tang Ruowei. It's not that you chose her. It's that you had no other choice. 3 months had passed, but the other students still sidelined you. When picking partners to practice with, they just ignored you. And Tang Ruowei? She was simply too strong. In the entire academy, only Zhao Qin could consistently beat her. But Zhao Qin was arrogant, he refused to lower himself to fight a woman. No one else wanted to do it either. Losing to a girl would be too humiliating. So, in the end, it was just you and Tang Ruowei. The result? You spent 3 months getting completely crushed. In terms of raw strength, you had actually surpassed her. Because your strength grew steadily by 4 pounds every single day, you had reached the 700-pound mark. Tang Ruowei's strength was only 650 pounds. But when it came to their internal secrets, Tang Ruowei had already broken through to the 4th layer of the bull demon strength. While you were still stuck on the 3rd, level 4 of the bull demon force. It allows Tang Ruowei to pair it with the bull demon fist, while he's still stuck at level 3. Level 4 of the bull demon force lets Tang Ruowei unleash triple the power when combined with the bull demon fist. But I can only manage double right now. That's where the real gap lies. It's not just the raw power, there's a gap in speed too. No matter how we fight, you're going to lose, Chu Ning. You said you'd beat me today. I hope it's not just big talk. Tang Ruowei looks at you. Last time, you lost to her just like you always do. But unlike before, you talked tough and swore you'd definitely beat her next time. That was the first time you ever said that, and it actually left her looking forward to today. Don't worry, I'm definitely giving you a surprise today. Honestly, after getting thrashed by Tang Ruowei so many times in a row. You've got a real fire burning in your gut. As a grown man, I'm the one who's supposed to be pinning women down. How can I let a woman keep me pinned? Not that I mind being pressed against. But definitely not like this. Watch out, you strike first, ducking your head low. You throw a right punch, but Tang Ruowei shifts her left foot half a step. Dodging the blow, she turns her fist into a palm blade, chopping down toward your right arm. The moment her hand blade strikes, you pull back your fist and lunge forward with your left foot, turning your back into her. You whip your left arm toward her. The two of you go back and forth, trading blows. You know deep down that Tang Ruowei isn't even using her full strength. This girl is actually pretty decent. If she went all out, you'd be down in seconds. This wouldn't be sparring anymore. You'd be nothing more than a punching bag, and it's not like you're some desperate simp. Even if Tang Ruowei is gorgeous, you aren't about to be anyone's human target. After more than a dozen rounds of this, sweat is already dripping from your forehead. Aside from a few stray hairs, Tang Ruowei looks perfectly fine. Chu Ning, is this what you meant by beating me? Tang Ruowei starts ramping up the pressure. You're forced back step by step, almost at the edge of the training grounds. Suddenly, your eyes lock on something behind her. Instructor Lu. Tang Ruowei frowns. Isn't it perfectly normal for Instructor Lu to be here? Every 3 days, when everyone spars on the grounds, Instructor Lu comes by to watch and give pointers. Every 3 days, when everyone spars on the grounds, Instructor Lu comes by to watch and give pointers. There was no need to shout it out, but seeing that weird look on your face. Tang Ruowei curiously turns her head to look. This is exactly what you were waiting for. The moment she turns her head, you explode with every ounce of strength you have. Your right fist slams toward Tang Ruowei's chest. A sneak attack. Tang Ruowei is annoyed, but she doesn't panic. Even though she got distracted for a split second, she had purposefully kept her distance from you. Facing your incoming punch, she doesn't back down. She lunges forward, meeting your strike with a punch of her own. And then, Tang Ruowei sees a smirk spread across your face. Your clenched right fist suddenly flies open. A cold wind whistles. And then, in her wide, dilated eyes, she sees a cloud of yellow mist exploding right in her face. Cough, cough, cough. A pungent, stinging smell hits her, and her eyes feel like they're on fire. Tang Ruowei reflexively squeezes her eyes shut, pulling her fist back in pain. By the time she realized it and tried to force her eyes open, it was already too late. Your fist stopped less than 1 inch from her face, and then you pulled it back. Without waiting for Tang Ruowei to say a word, you turned around and walked away. This is a lesson for you, and a lesson I'm giving to this world. With your back to Tang Ruowei, you spoke those words in your most deep and magnetic voice. You figured that in Tang Ruowei's heart, you must look like a total badass right now. Why are you running so fast? Are you afraid I'll beat you up? Hearing Tang Ruowei's voice from behind, your lip couldn't help but twitch. You were clearly just walking a bit faster. How did that suddenly count as running? Watching you walk further and further away without any sign of stopping, Tang Ruowei couldn't help but shout. Come back, I won't hit you. Instructor Lu hasn't even pointed out our mistakes yet. But you still didn't turn around. This was indeed the final lesson he was giving Tang Ruowei. Real combat isn't just about flashy fist techniques. Sometimes you have to use every trick in the book, catching the enemy off guard and striking when they're unprepared. It's the only way to win. No need to keep shouting. He is leaving the academy today. There's no use calling after him. He's leaving the academy today, and he won't be practicing martial arts here anymore. Lu Junshan, who had been walking around the martial arts field watching the students spar, finally spoke up. His words left Tang Ruowei stunned and caused the other students to stop their training. Chu Ning's father was a constable before he passed. Now that you've completed 6 months of training, you are eligible to take up a post in public service, Lu Junshan explained. In truth, you had already gone to see him yesterday. You had informed him of your decision to leave the academy. To be honest, he felt it was a bit of a shame. Your natural talent for martial arts wasn't exactly high. The ox demon strength technique you were practicing. Your progress with the mental cultivation was at the very bottom of the class, yet your passion for training never faded. Most importantly, your physical strength was growing at a decent pace. If you had stayed in the academy for 3 years, even if you couldn't break through to become a martial master immediately, you certainly would have within 5 years of leaving. He had intended to talk you out of it, but one thing you said changed his mind. Instructor, leaving the academy doesn't mean I'm giving up on the way of the warrior. It's just that I have an elderly aunt at home who needs care. By taking a job at the yamen, I can look after her and also earn enough money to buy the medicinal herbs I need for my training. Even if it takes me a few extra years to become a martial master, I believe it's worth it. A few years. The children of the wealthy and powerful can't afford to waste that time. Because they are constantly racing toward higher realms. But for a martial artist born into poverty, becoming a martial master is already the goal of a lifetime. Reaching that rank, changing the family's fate, and providing for the next generation. That is the path a warrior from a humble background should choose. Hadn't he followed that very same path himself? So why should he stop you? He should have left a long time ago. With his pathetic talent, staying here is just a waste of everyone's time. You're not wrong. Every time he spars, he's basically just a human punching bag. If I were him, I wouldn't have the nerve to show my face here anymore, one student whispered softly. Hearing these people talk, Tang Ruowei shot them a cold, piercing glare. Your martial arts potential might not be high, but your actual strength was definitely not weak. Every single time she defeated you, she had to give it her absolute everything. Once her strength and speed are matched to yours, she's always at a disadvantage. Because your attacks are always so unpredictable, striking from angles she could never imagine. Most importantly, she's also been improving. But the fact that she still has to go all out every time just to beat you, doesn't that prove you're improving too? How would those guys who look down on you ever know? They're no match for you at all. The early morning sun had just begun to peek over the horizon, slowly chasing away the night's chill. Daning County Government Office. Holding your identification papers, you entered the main official street. After waiting for about 15 minutes, you received the official letter of introduction for the constable position from a clerk at the government office. Then, you hurried off without a moment's rest to the constable station located on another street. In the Liang dynasty, the county government office and the constable station were separate, unlike in the ancient world. The constables all worked in the yamen, and were also responsible for protecting the county magistrate. In a place like the Great Liang, where official posts are assigned based on strength, the county magistrate was, on the surface, the county's strongest martial artist. He didn't need protection. If someone actually dared to fight their way into the office, and the magistrate couldn't subdue them, then sending in more constables would just be sending them to their deaths. So your head constable Chu's son, Chu Ning. At the constable station, the person who greeted you was a head constable, who sized you up for a moment with a curious gaze. He said, not bad. Like father, like son. Make sure you do well. Old Liao, the new guy is here. Show him the ropes. Be quick about it. You were then given a brand new uniform to put on, and followed the old constable called Old Liao out to patrol the streets. Chu Ning, right? You've got connections upstairs, don't you? Old Liao asked with a chuckle as soon as they stepped outside. My father was Chu Ping. He was the head constable of Daning County before he passed. You're a slippery one, kid. When a man dies, it's like a lamp being extinguished. That's especially true here at the constable station. Forget it. It doesn't matter if you don't talk about it. Since head constable Zhao asked me to show you the ropes, I'll make sure to clearly explain some of the rules of our station to you. The rules of the constable station. You had already received a handbook when you were changing into your uniform. It listed some of the official regulations, but having lived 2 lives, you already understood things very clearly. Any department with law enforcement power always operates by 2 sets of rules. Our constable station gets 10 new constables a year. Maybe only 2 or 3 of them manage to survive without getting crippled. The ones who end up crippled are always the reckless fools. Since head constable Zhao asked me to take you under my wing, it means he wants me to tell you the real rules of being a constable. As long as you follow these rules, you'll stay in one piece. Then I ask for your guidance, Master Liao. Your attitude was very sincere. Old Liao spoke as they walked. What is it that we constables do? Maintain public order. Scratch that previous phrase. Our duty is to maintain public order and collect tax silver. Don't get this wrong, or you won't even know what killed you. If it were any other rookie, he would probably be confused. Doesn't arresting bandits count as maintaining public order? But you only had to think for a moment to roughly understand old Lao's hidden meaning. Public order, public order. The order we maintain is over those treacherous merchants and unruly commoners who don't know their place. We're just a bit stronger than the average person. We've only learned some shoddy, third-rate martial arts. The people who become bandits are all vicious and incredibly strong. They aren't people that lowly constables like us can handle. Thank you for your guidance, Master Liao. I will take it to heart. You're still young. You've only been at the academy for 6 months. Don't go thinking about earning merit or showing off. Keep your head down for a dozen years or so, and you might have a chance to break through to martial master and become a head constable. Not like us lot. The best we can hope for in this life is to remain a constable. Old Liao spoke, and you listened carefully. Soon, the 2 of them came to a commercial street. The vendors on the street all greeted Old Liao warmly. You listened carefully. Soon, the 2 of them came to a commercial street. The vendors on the street all greeted Old Liao warmly. The wontons at this place are very good. Come and have a taste. The owner of the breakfast stall offered enthusiastically. Old Liao and you had wonton noodles. After finishing the meal, Old Liao tossed 4 wen on the table and left. You took note of the owner's expression. There was no dissatisfaction or resentment. On the contrary, he smiled as he watched the two of you leave. As constables, our salary isn't high, but we do well when it comes to eating and drinking. For any merchant in your jurisdiction, you can eat and take as you please. I'm actually one of the good ones. This wonton noodle owner sells a bowl for 5 wen. His cost is only 2 wen. Giving him 4 wen means he doesn't take a loss, so of course he's happy. Old Liao noticed your earlier action and offered an explanation. Master Liao is truly conscientious. That wasn't just flattery on your part. Take my past life for example. How many powerful law enforcement departments took advantage of the businesses and enterprises they oversaw? Forget paying the cost price, it was considered good if they didn't just load things onto their vehicles. It was like that in my past life, which claimed everyone was equal, let alone in a feudal country like the Liang dynasty. Next, old Liao took you along to start collecting protection money from these merchants. Collecting business tax. The amount of business tax collected varies for merchants in different types of businesses. Even for those in the same business, depending on their size and how well they're doing. The amount of tax silver collected is also different. Take that butcher shop from earlier. It's protected by the 3 bamboo gang. The gang's leader and 2 deputy leaders are all martial masters. They're not people us lowly constables can afford to offend. From other merchants, I collect 30%. From this one, I only collect 20%. If you were to collect more, the owner would pay up. But you'd have to watch out for the day you're walking down the street and get a sack thrown over your head and beaten into a cripple. The higher-ups won't go to war with the gang. For us lowly constables, if you're crippled, you just have to accept your bad luck. 10% of the tax silver must be handed over to the constabulary. Anything extra you collect goes into your own pocket. How much extra you can collect depends on how lucrative your assigned area is. If you want to make money in a lucrative area, you have to grease the palms of those above you. Don't be fooled, I've already collected 30 taels in this short time. 15 of that is to be handed over. Another 10 taels are for bribes. In the end, what I can actually keep for myself is only 5 taels of silver. Old Liao was indeed very considerate, telling you all the unwritten rules of the entire constabulary. Well now, you just refuse to learn, don't you? You're back here selling again. As they walked to the exit at the other end of the street, old Liao suddenly drew the saber from his waist. Seeing this, you did the same. The two of them menacingly surrounded a middle-aged vendor with dark skin. In front of this vendor were several iron cages containing pheasants, wild rabbits, and some other animals you didn't recognize. Officer Liao, please be merciful. My wife at home just gave birth to a healthy baby boy, but she's not producing enough milk. I was planning to sell some game to buy a few prescriptions from the pharmacy to help with the milk flow. The middle-aged man lifted up a burlap sack next to him that was tied with rope. There's a silver-backed snake in here. Master Liao, you should take it home and make soup with it. Old Liao sheathed his saber and gave you a look. You took the sack. It can only be left here for 2 hours. Any longer than that, and you'll be spending 3 days in a cell with me. Rest assured, I understand the rules. Thank you, Master Liao. 2 hours later, you were carrying 2 bags of pastries. And a burlap sack, but the sack was stuffed full of melon seeds. Let's go. I'll take you to see an opera. Your eyes lit up. At this rate, he certainly wasn't sleepy anymore. Then, he followed old Liao into an entertainment house. The items were handed over to the doorman of the entertainment house for safekeeping, and then you watched the opera for 2 hours, you fool. The girls at the entertainment house were busy all night. They're all catching up on sleep in the morning. If you want to see the sights, you have to wait for the evening. You watched the opera for 2 hours. You fool. The girls at the entertainment house were busy all night. They're all catching up on sleep in the morning. If you want to see the sights, wait until evening. As you left the entertainment house, old Liao teased you. The two of them then found a restaurant for lunch. At noon, they returned to the entertainment house to continue watching the opera. They stayed until sunset, watching as the entertainment house grew lively. You and old Liao returned to the constable's office. It was time. It was time to go back and change shifts. Today was your first time on patrol. Just take these things home with you. Thank you, Master Liao. You didn't refuse, because he knew that old Liao patrolled the streets every day. His family surely didn't lack for such things. On the way home, the neighbors looked at you in your uniform with a trace of awe on their faces. A constable is a nobody in front of important people, but to the common folk, they're a big shot. After all, they represent the authorities. Great aunt, I'm home. Little Ning is back. The food is almost ready. Seeing you in your uniform, her old eyes turned red. This is wonderful. Your father wore this very same uniform back in the day. He looked so impressive. You didn't explain to the old woman that the uniforms for a chief constable and a regular constable are different. He just smiled and said, I brought a snake home today. It's for your health. I'll go prepare it. Placing the pastries on the table, you carried the burlap sack over to the well. Then, you untied the rope. The sack fell open. A triangular snake head instantly shot out from the mouth of the sack, striking towards his arm. With a flick of your wrist, you swiftly and precisely grabbed the snake by the throat. With a squeeze of your fingers, he snapped the snake's neck. A silver-backed pit viper. Its name comes from the silver line along its back. This snake is highly venomous, but it's also a great tonic. After skinning, gutting, and washing it clean, you carry the snake into the kitchen. Making soup with this snake is the most nourishing. Your father used to bring snakes home all the time, too. He'd leave it here for his great aunt to prepare. Now, you go and wash your hands. For dinner, 3 dishes and 1 soup. You took a sip of the snake soup, the flavor was truly exquisite. But a moment later, your eyes lit up as the warmth of the soup hit your stomach. A surge of heat began to flow through your lower abdomen. Usually, with your ox demon strength, these signs only appeared during a breakthrough. Could this silver-backed viper really help me reach the next level of ox demon strength? The 4th level. Thinking of that possibility, you gulped down several big bowls in a row while your great aunt watched with a tender smile. She's getting on in years, so she couldn't have too much of the rich soup herself. But seeing how much you enjoyed it made her heart swell with more joy than if she'd drunk it all. "Oh, you child. Slow down, nobody's going to take it from you," she teased. "Drink slowly." Later, out in the courtyard, you stood as firm as a pine tree before suddenly exploding into a set of ox demon fists. As your limbs blurred in motion, the heat from your core surged through every inch of your body. As you pushed through the forms, your movements became faster and more violent. Simultaneously, your body began to hum with a low vibration that grew louder and louder. Finally, it erupted into a series of sharp cracks like firecrackers, and your entire frame began to swell. You looked like a balloon being pumped to its absolute limit, then, snap. At last, following one final, thunderous boom, your body slowly compressed back to its original size. But looking closely, your bronze skin was much tighter and smoother than it had ever been. The 3rd level of ox demon strength is marked by humming bones and vibrating skin. But the 4th level is marked by the skin snap. That sound just now was the sound of your skin reaching a new density. You exhaled a long, heavy breath of impurities. Walking over to a massive stone weight, you hoisted the 800-pound block effortlessly. Now that I've broken through to the 4th level of ox demon strength, with 800 pounds of force, I should be a match for Tang Ruowei. You had a clear grasp of your current power, but you knew better than to be overconfident. In a real fight, you always need a backup plan. The fact that Tang Ruowei could force her eyes open means my chili powder trick isn't quite effective enough yet.